Awesome. So it seems like people are trickling in slowly, but we can go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining the grant writing workshop today. This is a collaboration by Proteintech and Learn Grant Writing. I'm Afrida Rahman Enyart. I'll be your host for today. And we're joined by two wonderful speakers, Meredith Noble and Dr. Faiza Peetz. So before I hand it over to them, I just want to share a few company slides to just introduce Proteintech to you. So Proteintech is a leading manufacturer of antibodies and immunoassays. We have a really expansive portfolio of antibodies. That's really our bread and butter. We cover over 13,000 targets. We also offer immunoassays. So for example, like ELISA kits, IHC kits. We also have antibody labeling kits and cell separation kits. Within our Proteintech brand, we also have our humankind branded cytokines and growth factors. And all our proteins are expressed in human HEC293 cells so that you can be confident that they have native folding, post-translational modifications, and glycosylation. And then lastly, we also have our Chromotech nanobody-based reagents. And nanobodies are essentially exactly what they sound like. They're really tiny antibodies, so they're ideal for immunoprecipitation, immunofluorescence, and protein purification. So as a company, we measure our success by our customers' scientific success, specifically by helping them publish impactful research faster. So this graph on the left shows that our company history and our products are featured in more and more publications each year. And as of now, we have over 200,000 publication citations. We are one of the top 10 cited antibody companies and also the fastest growing company in product citations. We also value that we are a company for scientists by scientists. Our award-winning products are self-manufactured, and we offer the largest in-house portfolio of antibodies for the human proteome. We also know the importance of product validation, and we use knockout, knockdown models for validation whenever possible. And as antibody experts, we have in-depth knowledge of immunoassay applications, and we also offer outstanding technical support. So with that, I would like to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. So Meredith Noble is the co-founder of Learn Grant Writing, the #1 online membership for those building a career in grant writing. Her book, How to Write a Grant, Become a Grant Writing Unicorn, is a #1 bestseller for nonprofit fundraising and grants. Meredith has secured over $42 million in grant funding, and her students have secured over $627 million, a number that continues to grow daily. And then our second speaker will be Dr. Faiza Peetz. So after retiring from a successful medical career in surgery, Dr. Faiza Peetz decided to pay it forward. She joined a local university to help educate the next generation by combining her clinical expertise with theoretical scientific understanding. Her time in higher education opened her eyes to the widespread need for funding to launch projects with the potential to improve human lives and well-being. And she has secured $20 million in funding. Faiza founded Oakfield Partners to help private and public organizations navigate the complex world of funding. She credits the firm's success to the attention to detail, to her attention to detail, a skill she developed during her medical career, and her team's outstanding work ethic. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'll pass it off to Meredith and Faiza. Thank you both so much for being here. And at any point, if you guys have any questions for them, please put those in the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions.
Awesome. All right, I am going to screen share and we'll get this party started. All right, I'm a big chat person, so if you want to engage, like throw out of your questions, your engagement in the chat, because I can somehow do two things at one time. All right, we're gonna get this party started. We're looking at the top 4 mistakes that researchers make when they're pursuing NIH grants and what to do instead so that you're not making those mistakes. In terms of where we're going, I've got a couple freebies for you, and we'll get into the mistakes, what to do, a couple extra things that Faiza wanted to make sure you knew because she is an NIH pro, some professional development, and then a Q&A. All right, so with that, Shall we get into this? Just something for those of you that mentioned 1 and maybe 2. I wanted you to know that I do have a free grant writing class that's actually quite good. So if you, for instance, there's a free budget template in there, and that budget template is built specifically for federal grants and the grants.gov system. So that alone is worth going and watching the budget section of that course. So if you're curious about that, I think, yeah, we just dropped in the link, but that's a helpful starting point because I don't want to go over all that today. We want to go into more specifics, but consider that a good starting point. Alrighty, so Faiza, mistake number 1. What is the number 1 mistake? Not attending the program director's office hours. Can you take us away with this one?
Yes, so that is actually the main one, because I would suggest you imagine someone knocking on your door and ask you for money. What would you do? Would you give them money? Well, you wouldn't. And
No,
that
probably not.
and that is the same thing when you submit an application to NIH without prior negotiation. Showing up in the program director's office hours, by the way, they are mandated to offer those office hours, means you develop a relationship with the program director, and little by little, they will trust you enough to actually work with you on your application. So showing up in the office hour will allow you to actually make sure that you are eligible, make sure that you that your project is something they would fund.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I forgot to click through on some of these slides about like why this is a problem to not do that, right? We have the risk of grant refusal, lowering our chances of success. And I think one of the my favorite reasons is that sometimes you learn things that maybe they're in the NOFA, but maybe they're not. So for example, I did a grant with the US Economic Development Administration and found out that I could actually apply for an exemption for my client to not have to provide 20% match. And I never would have known that. That saved them $80,000 that they didn't have to come up with because I had a relationship with that funder program officer and was able to kind of follow that path to getting, basically saving them 80 grand. So those are like some of the tangible, real like money differences that come with having these conversations. So I think I didn't click through this and you've already covered it, but do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, and they actually, so the requests for proposals are very, very technical. And the reason for it is that they are mandated to be that technical. Everything has to be written in a lawyer's language. And the program directors actually help us interpret things in that NOFO, that we understand it in one way, and they actually mean something completely different. And you can ask those questions while you are at the office hour.
I love that. So good. All right. Mistake number 2 is writing the narrative too soon. Okay. So the issue here, I'll set up the context and then I'll tee Faiza up for what to do instead. So when we don't start, basically when we think of grant writing, we all think of the narrative. Like that's the bulk of what we think about. But the funny thing is the narrative is actually the easy part. I know that sounds funny when you're dealing with a 80-page narrative, but I'm telling you, it's the easy part if you don't start it right away. And when we don't know the full scope of what needs completed, and especially when we don't have the final version of the budget, because that stinking budget influences every section of your proposal. So let's get into what to do instead.
Well, really read that request for proposal twice, if not 3 times, and at different times, not back to back. Read it. And when I learned grant writing at that school called Learn Grant Writing, they told us, read it, go for a walk, come back and reread it, or take a couple of days and then reread it. And actually, it's so true. If you take that time between the 2 reads, your brain actually processes it subconsciously, and you can see things that you haven't seen when you read it the first time. So read the NOFO, read all requirements, highlight them, and then develop an action plan, which is project management. All right, and actually even that free course that Meredith so graciously is giving for free tells you already what to do. All right, so that would be a great thing, such as write or build a narrative skeleton, and write the abstract absolutely last, and work on the hardest section first.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in on this because it's so tempting to spend time on the top and work your way down, but the heaviest points, what's worth the most, is always at the bottom. And interestingly, when you're working through a narrative, your arguments, your creative angles, the analytical, persuasive, like your best points, they just don't even emerge until you're about halfway through the writing process. And so you want to save those for the end, and then those come up to the top in your intro and your abstract. So just keep that in mind. And if you're wondering what the heck we mean by grant narrative skeleton, what I mean by that is you do not start writing on a blank page, because that is the answer to paralysis. And in fact, Rose here in pink, wave Rose, Rose actually has, you should go drop the link in, but Rose created a writing course because of how big that paralysis with the blank page is for grant writers. But essentially, the idea is that we want to take the headers and the subheaders and how that section is scored and put all of that into a Google document. Then we start thinking about how we want to respond with bullet points, never a complete sentence, never starting to write in paragraph form. And then that's what gives kind of the bones and the muscle tissue to your narrative. Then we get to go into fine tuning that. And it goes so much faster that way. All right.
Agree.
So
when I work with my clients on NIH grants, the hardest part is actually the budget, and that's what I start with. When they come to me and tell me, oh, we are ready, the project is ready, and I go and assess and the project is indeed ready, then I tell them, okay, then I need the budget, all right? Yeah. Because everything depends on it. And once I get the budget, it's frozen. I am not going to change it again and again and again, because that budget has to reflect the project. The narrative is really the cherry on top.
It really is. Has anyone experienced what we're talking about? So you're getting this. If I know I had a lot of people that were 2s. So for those of you that were 2s or 3s, have you dealt with basically trying to, not have a budget complete and write your narrative? If you've dealt with that, say like, I guess, yes, that was me. Yes. Yeah, it's unnecessary, undue pain for yourself. And it can be tough because figuring out a budget does take a lot of time and effort. But it is so vital that you do that first. All right, awesome. Glad that there's some pain in the room, but we're going to not do that anymore and make your life so much easier. All righty, so mistake number 3. Not having a grant calendar. So if you're wondering what I mean by that, let's get into it. So when we're looking for grants too late, I like to say that when the funding announcements come out, you're already too late. You're already behind. So there's that. Not to say that you can't still proceed, but especially when it comes to these NIH grants, not necessarily. Like the other thing to consider is that, for instance, with EPA brownfield grants, which I used to write a ton of, the funding contacts could talk to you about your project before the funding guidelines came out. But once the guidelines came out, they can't, because they can't give you an unfair advantage. So if you were waiting until the funding announcement came out to ask your clarifying questions, now you are out of luck. So that's one of the reasons it's so vital that we get that relationship going up at the top, right? Mistake number 1, and make sure that we're asking questions early. The other thing I see is the haphazard throw spaghetti at the wall approach to finding grants, especially with these NIH beasts. Like these are not just see if it works out. These are 200, 250 hour plus efforts, right? So we can't be taking that approach. The other issue is you're dealing with a lot of partners when you go after these, and often universities, right? So this is a system that can be quickly overwhelmed, and a last minute proposal is simply a messy proposal. I'm sure you have more to go you can say about this, Faiza, yourself, because I know you've dealt with this and these last minute requests. Can you jump in on this?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I had many clients who come to me 2 weeks before the grant is due, and coming from the medical field, I can only tell you it's like going to ICU. It is really difficult to get it done. Of course, it's doable, but it's really not the best thing you can do. Just think about it. The NIH sends out requests for proposals that are valid for 2-3 years. All right, they have a deadline, a yearly deadline, or sometimes 3 deadlines a year. So it's not that if you don't apply, you're going to miss the boat. There is an opportunity, and that is where what Meredith is saying, a calendar is a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
way ahead of time.
Yeah, so we'll back into that, but real quick, I do want to answer the question that Ignacio had. So he's heard that one should match your budget closely to the grant amount. Is this accurate? So if there's a $30,000 grant available, should you be shooting for 29,990? Okay, so I want to answer this a little bit. First of all, how do you even know what the amount is? Because a lot of times with these federal grants, it'll tell you what total amount is available. So let's say I need to do some easy math. Let's say there's 10 million available total. Okay. One of the really cool cheats you can do is go into grants.gov, and I teach this in my program. Go look at past awards, like the past years that they had that funding program listed. But they'll also often say like how many awards are expected. So let's say they expect to make 10 awards and there's $10 million total funding available. I can then divide 10 million by 10 expected awards, and I know that the amount is probably around $1 million. Where people fall flat is they see that in the grant, it says you can apply for up to 5 million. So they're like, oh, sweet, I'm going to apply for 5 million. But the problem is you're just giving yourself an instant no, because why would they fund you when they can fund 5 other projects? So my rule of thumb is that I want to be within 20% plus or minus of what looks like it's going to be the right average amount that's awarded. So just something to consider if it's not super clear that it's just a fixed amount that's given, which it rarely is, especially as we start dealing with these bigger federal grants, that we want to take total amount, write this down that you see. You'll see this on the grants.gov sheet. I would pull it up and show you right now, but I would get distracted. So take the total amount of funding available, divide by the expected number of awards, and you want to come in close to that number. Do you want to add anything else, Faiza?
Yes, and a mistake that some people also make is that they don't ask for enough money. And they think like if I don't ask too much, I have a higher chance of getting the grant. And actually program directors, they wonder, why are you asking so little, but you want to do so much? There is a mismatch between the scope of work and the money asked. So you want to really be within those 20% of the average grants awarded.
Yeah, totally. So let's dive into Daniela's question, and then Faiza, I'm going to give the high level answer, and I want you to give a specific perspective on NIH grants. Okay, so what to do instead? What I want you to do is look at when is the grant due. Okay, now we're backing up 2 or 3 days, and that's the day it's due to you. Okay, that's the day you are submitting it. Then I want you to work systematically backwards to figure out, well, okay, when do I need to have my letters of support? When do I need to have the memorandum of agreements locked down? When do I need to have the narrative QC'd, reviewed by somebody else? When am I going to have my 5th draft done, my 4th draft, my 3rd, my 2nd, my 1st, right? Like, so we keep moving backwards. When do I have my kickoff? When do I build my narrative skeleton? Like, we work our way backwards from the day you're turning it in. And the cool thing about it is that people don't need to know the real due date, because if people know that the due date is midnight on March 13th, they are going to think that they can get away with using until 11:59 of your precious time. So I had a client, for instance, in Tanana Chiefs Conference. It was up in Alaska, and I needed something that they had to push through this huge monolithic organization and get me this attachment. And the grant was actually due Monday, but I told them it was due Friday. And they moved mountains to go get that document, get it signed, thinking they were sliding it in like a baseball player just in the nick of time. And I was like, great, thank you. Uploaded it. I had a relaxing weekend, right? So you can project manage this to not create chaos in your life, which is one of the most common things that grant writers deal with when they're not committing to excellence in project management, which frankly, if you project manage a grant like a pro, you're going to project manage your scientific project even better. So like they're 2 very interchangeable skills. So we have built Asana. Has anyone used Asana here? Or what project management software do you use? If you use any, say like no if you don't use any project management software, or if you do, what do you use? Curious. Yay, Sam is an Asana boy. I'm all about that unicorn shooting across the screen, not gonna lie. Okay, no project management. Yes, using Roam. Asana, cool. Notion, nice, Ben. ClickUp, also awesome. Kanban boards work as well. Yeah, Notion is definitely coming in hot. They have really improved their product. They weren't a project management tool not that long ago, and they are now. Oh yay, Proteintech uses Asana. How lovely. Okay, so cool. Whitney's using Notion and ClickUp. Sweet. So basically what I'm going to give you at the tail end of this event is our project management Asana template. You're welcome. Most people pay a lot of money to get this within our program, but I'm going to let you have that so you're off to the right start, including, well, I'll get into it later. But that's going to help you basically understand, like, how do I break down what are the tasks, who do I assign them to, what are the deadlines? It is transformational. Okay, and then the second thing we want to talk about is building a funding strategy. How often are you, put in the chat, are you pursuing more than one grant? Are we talking like we're putting all our eggs in one basket, or do we have multiple? Like, yes, if you are pursuing multiple grants or trying to figure out what all you can go after. Multiple. Yeah, thought so. You guys are dealing with expensive projects. You have expensive taste, okay? I mean, I'll walk into a store sometimes and I'm always like, of course I pick out the most expensive thing. You are too. So what does that mean? Some of you has got to see, yeah, it can be a single project, but is it a single grant or are we looking for multiple grants? And you do fare much better often when you're pursuing multiple grants, because one program doesn't want to carry 100% of the weight of your project happening or not. And often you get a much easier yes when they see someone else is supporting it. So it can really be helpful to figure out, how do I line up? The best way I can describe it is thinking of it as like a game of dominoes. So we want to figure out what dominoes we're going after. And if this domino knocks over, I go and get this grant, boom, but I haven't actually teed anything up to be impacted by it, it has no effect, right? Domino knocked over, too much time has passed, has no influence here. What we want to do is know what grants we're going after so they're close together in a strategic play, so that when one knocks over, it knocks over the next, then the next, and the next, and you have this tremendous momentum flywheel build around your project, because funders want to get on the exciting project. They want, if someone else is validating it and saying, I'm going to give it money, they feel more confident to give it money. Everyone get this? Thumbs up if so. You don't have, I can't see your faces, so you could give me a thumbs up in the chat, I guess. So what do we do instead? We need to build a funding strategy. Did I talk about that? And then, oh yeah, great. Conveniently, I have built a whole training on this and it is public. So do you have this link by any chance? Can you go grab this, Rose? Okay, so this was a webinar I did with Instrumental. Has anyone heard of Instrumental? Yes, if you have. They're a grant database tool, fabulous. I mean, really cool. I've been using them for years and years and years, like when they just started as a startup. Incredible. So yeah, wow, so many no's. I didn't expect that. Okay, well, it's a really remarkable tool for, you guys know what your main hitters are, what you want to go after, but what about actually some foundations that want to get behind the innovations that you're doing, right? We want to look at what other grants potentially exist that can support what you're doing. Anyway, even if that's not a tool you use, I want you to go watch this, because you'll learn the process of figuring out, how do I take 100+ grants and get it down to the 2 to 3 to 4 maybe that I'm pursuing, and in what order and what are the strategic considerations, so that you can put together a funding strategy, your roadmap, the roadmap that you're going to be living off of for the next 18 months, so that you're not, oh, hey, a grant's due in 2 weeks, we should just drop everything and go after it, because that's a good way to burn yourself out / not get funded. Okay, Coach Rose just dropped in the YouTube link, so just open that and save it so you can watch it later. All right, I don't know if do we feel like we covered that? Or are we feeling real good about, because that's kind of a meaty topic. Any questions, add it in the chat. This is a good time to do it, about scheduling, about funding strategies, anything you want to ask, because this is actually kind of its own beast. It's a very actually significant part of the, like, you know, when Faiza and I told you grant writing is easy, it's because the funding research part's hard. Ignacio was asking about HIPAA compliant project management tools, which I actually can't speak to. Can you, Faiza, do you by any chance?
The HIPAA compliance project, no, I don't.
Okay, sorry, Ignacio, we can't answer that one. But these project, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look into it. All right, Harini, how to address overlaps when you're going after multiple grants? What do you mean by overlaps? Please ask a little bit more around that. Like the fact that, hey, you haven't found out if the grant was awarded before you're pursuing the next one. Okay, that's actually not a bad thing. So one of the things I often do is I will say, hey, here are the 2 grants that are pending award for this amount. And And one of the things you can do is show, like, because they can see the momentum. Often they have contacts with those other organizations, right? Because a lot of times funders are kind of supporting similar type projects. So let's say your funder, the grant you're going after now, they know the 2 programs you're pursuing. There's a good chance they're actually going to go talk to them to see how that project is, right? And if they, hey, are you probably going to fund this or not? And that will help influence them. But the other thing is, you just like showing that that amount is pending award, like already does so much more for you than showing up at the table empty-handed. So that's one thing. And then, yeah, have I had it happen? You know, another technique you can use is saying like, this grant, this is more like for foundations and stuff, but you could say like, this grant will be awarded if this grant is successful. So we're sort of using it like, hey, if you give us money, like it unlocks this other $500,000 in match, but we have to be able to get this grant first before we can get this one. So sometimes that's a strategy I'll use. And then, overlap on it. I think that's the other question. Okay. So first of all, like, you want to be asking for more money than you need, because, and Faiza, you're welcome to jump in, but you're like, you can mold your budget as you need if things need to change a little bit, right? Like, it's not so locked in that you can't spend a little bit more if you need it. Or you could say, hey, we got more money than we were expecting. We don't necessarily need this percent. Like, we can send 20% back for another project. Like, that's okay too, right? But what we want to be doing is like, don't think you need to ask for the exact perfect amount you needed. I always try to ask for like at least 20 to 30% more than I need when I look at my whole funding strategy, so that if something is a no, I still have enough for the project. Faiza, jump in on that topic.
Yes, yes, and you want to put in at least 10% contingency, because if you have a project that lasts multiple years, the prices, as you have seen, prices change, and you must be able to still run the project. So you want that extra money in there. And actually, the request for proposal asks for it too, that you take into consideration that the prices could change, and that you need to keep paying for the project. The other thing is, you can still apply if you run out of money. You can still apply for supplemental grants, that you can go back to your program director and say, yes, I asked for 500,000, but you know what? I ran into trouble. I need another 50,000, 100,000. And oftentimes they don't want to see a funded project fail. So usually they actually give you that extra money.
Right, but we would prefer that you get enough in the first place.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you want to answer Sam's question? So for an early stage investigator applying for a first R1, for example, if you have a small project that wouldn't be within 20% of the average estimated award, would you recommend expanding the scope of your project? So I have my answer to that, but I'm curious yours.
Yes, absolutely. Expand if you can do it, or get collaborators who add another aspect to your project, and you can get that way. You're showing collaboration and also getting more money.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing to keep in mind is that it's a clue, total amount funding divided by estimated number of awards, but a more accurate picture is to go and look at these past years, how many awards actually were made, because sometimes that doesn't perfectly match up. Sometimes they do give a series of sort of smaller awards that are sort of like the seed funds, right? Seed projects. And then there's these others that are bigger. So just keep in mind that I'm giving you a clue about how much you want your budget to be, but the best indication of future giving is past giving. That's something I really want you to take away. Best indication of future giving is past giving. So jump back into your past years of awards and look at how much was awarded, because that's almost always public information. All right, shall we roll? Let's do it. So mistake number 4. Good questions, fellas. I really appreciate it. Okay, so trying to force fit your project. That's a no-no. Okay, want to talk about this one, Faiza?
Yes, it's like the same way if you are size 8 and you wear a size 2 dress, how do you look like? That is how it is with trying to fit the project guidelines, or trying to fit a requirement that you actually don't have expertise in, or didn't get a collaborator who has expertise in. And that ends up with frustration, because if your heart was not in the project, doing the project becomes like pulling teeth. And you want to really, because money is out there, there is money. You just have to clarify your project, make sure that it is something relevant, that you're moving the needle forwards when it comes to research, since we're talking about NIH, but then find the matching grants for it, instead of twisting yourself in a way just to fit into that one grant.
Yeah, 100%. I think what I would add to that is that if we're not talking NIH, there are two schools of thought here, though. And essentially, I want you on either polar sides, nowhere in the middle. So you either know what the heck you're doing, you know what you want to do, you have a lot of momentum, and you're clearly pursuing funding for that project and undertaking, right? Or the flip side is you're actually not sure what you want to work on. You're open to a lot of different things. So why don't you go have a look at what the funder's priorities are and see if any of that really interests you, especially for those of you just getting projects off the ground, and see then, hey, would I actually, if this is a really big priority for them and I find that interesting, maybe that's the direction I'd like to take my work. So, but we can't be doing something in the middle, right? It needs to be one or the other. So just recognize that like the biggest thing with funders is that you can't fool them. And heaven knows I've tried. So I've learned this the hard way. They can sniff out anything, can sniff out weakness like you wouldn't believe, right? It's like they're just vulture wolves that know, right? If you are kind of putting a facade, like lipstick on a pig, okay? So it's really, really important that we actually know, like, what are we doing? And we're confident in that, so that they're not feeling like, hey, you're not actually a good fit here, and we can see that you're trying to do something that doesn't even make sense. Like they can smell that from a mile away. All right, so I think we've already covered what to do and said, but let's see. Go for it.
No, I said they are experts, so can't fool them. It's like a teenager trying to lie to you, and you look at them in the eyes and you know exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I have a 4-month-old baby, so I'm like, oh no, that's far off problem for me. I don't even want to think about that yet. But yeah, so what to do instead? Following those funding guidelines is no joke. I'm a millennial. I don't print anything with the exception of guidelines. I will print funding guidelines. You need those to have coffee marks on them, highlighter marks. They need to be next to you. They cannot be on your computer. I don't know what it is, but you just can't see things on the computer that you can see when it's in your hand. So print your guidelines. Team support is vital. Like this is where you becoming an excellent project manager has never been more important. And also inspiring the best out of people. I think one of the main challenges that people face is what do I do when people aren't giving me the information I need? Or I feel like I'm pulling teeth to try to get this information they promised they'd give me back, etc. But one of the best ways that you inspire people to want to help you is to create an incredible learning environment. When I kick off new projects, once I did a project like this huge $21 million infrastructure project with the railroad, and I ended up bringing in cookies with their railroad colors on them at the kickoff. And one of the people couldn't attend. She was in a different location. And so I had lunch delivered to her. Do you think that she gave me like, what if I asked for anything, she dropped everything and helped me? Yes. So I want you to consider like, what's that little extra oomph you can do to create an environment where someone wants to help you and wants to make your project the most important thing on their plate too. Independent QC is important. So what we mean by that is like someone has to check your work. End of story. You will start to become cross-eyed when you've looked at this grant for so long. You don't even remember up from down. And it's really important that you have someone else that can look at your work. And be willing to let something go if it's not a good fit. Like it's okay to let it wash, especially if you're not ready. If it's too soon, like it's okay to let it go versus, putting in 250 hours of your life that you're not getting back, right? Okay, Faiza, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it. That is really the bread and butter of this is, you covered it, Meredith.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, actually, speaking of which, Rose delivered coffee to me this morning so that because it's very early here in Alaska, the sun is just coming up. And like, think about that. Like she made me feel as in a team, like so much support. And so like, I will do anything for Rose because she's got my back, right? Okay, so question from Danielle, and I think you should take this one, Faiza, about finding the officer's office hours.
The
Mhm.
website, NIH's website, everything is there, but the NOFO itself has the contact information on it. So
But
that
she's saying that she already emailed and she didn't get an answer. So is it okay to follow up, and how soon?
oh, absolutely. I can't see the question.
Oh yeah,
but
no problem. No problem.
yes,
clarify.
absolutely. 3 emails is fair game. The people are busy
Mhm.
and it's not personal. It's not
Yep.
personal. Email them and email them again and email them a third time if necessary. Just make sure it's a week between the 2 emails.
Yeah, send a week between. Yeah, exactly. So give it 7 calendar days between when you send things. And be friendly and polite about it. But absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I get so many freaking emails that if I get a cold email from somebody, I actually wait until they send me a second email, so I know they really want it and they're not going to be wasting my time. So your funder might be in the same boat. So just be aware exactly that it's not personal. All right, some bonus mistakes.
They're receiving 56,000 proposals per year. You can imagine them drowning in emails. So
Yeah.
I think a week is good.
Yeah. Okay, bonus mistakes. You had a bunch of these, so let's round robin them. Ready, Faiza? Go for it.
So grammatical mistakes, that should be caught by the quality control. So that is why you need that person that haven't heard of your project or your proposal before and has fresh eyes for you. You make them read your proposal and they should catch the grammatical mistakes. And nowadays, there are a lot of AI tools that can do that too. Interpreting institutional data here, I really recommend you go to your institutional data person in your university and let them give you the information. That you don't try to fit the information into your proposal just so that you have some data, because they catch it. The reviewers catch it and it is returned to you with comments like that. I don't understand why they are interpreting the data this way. It's actually this way. Should I go? Keep on going?
Yeah, I guess I'll say one about saying too much because it cracks me up. So it just reminded me, I grew up on a ranch in Wyoming, and has anyone ever heard of 4-H? It's right, it's like ag programs for kids. Anyway, I put together this I put together this booklet when I was like in the 4th grade for fair, and it was like full. I mean, this thing was like a scrapbook. I put all these photos in and all this stuff that was like so irrelevant, right, to the raising a horse or whatever it was. And it was just, I said too much, right? I lost sight of what they actually needed. And sometimes I think we get so consumed in, really it's an ego often involved in being like, well, I'm going to show all these things. They can see I'm smart. And actually, concise is smart. Less is more. And it takes a lot of work to actually take something that's complex and distill it to something really simple. So just keep in mind that like we want to start also when you write a grant, it needs to be 20 to 30% longer than the final word count you want to end up with. And then went through the process of editing, we pare that way down, right? Okay, and then you want to take this one?
Submitted unrequested supplemental material. Actually, I heard it from a program director myself, who were multiple actually, who were telling me, what do people think? We are not a garbage can. You cannot just dump stuff in there and expect us to read it.
Oh, no.
I was shocked to hear it. And I was like, wow, people think like maybe you want to, no. And then on top of that, I have to print it and do it. They were not happy about the people who submit material that was not requested.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, one of the hacks for this, because sometimes you do need to show, like, for instance, I would be showing, scientific or like things that reference like a community plan or whatever. Like I was trying to show like where this project was supported, but they didn't need to see the entire community plan. They needed to see the section that referenced this specific project. So often what I'll do is create a table of contents for an attachment, and I will say what's in there and then link out to the complete document elsewhere. So it'll be like up, the cover, and then maybe that 1 page or 2 page that I needed for them to see. But it's clear where they could go get access to the rest of the document. Does that make sense? So you can then basically put in tons and tons of information, but I'm just giving them what they need, right? So that's a big one. I also think we just missed a question from Natalia, which was a good one. Are you allowed to use AI for proposals?
Nope. Actually, I went to an office hour where they were livid about the people who submit proposals with AI, where it was crystal clear that the AI wrote the entire proposal.
It's interesting because this is like heart palpitations for me, because it's a writing tool that can help you and just think.
But if you see people just ask ChatGPT to write it and submit it edited, just like that.
And they have every reason to be, and that's frankly, I think, going to completely change the funder landscape, because they are going to be flooded with things. So we're going to see, I think, more invitations to, you have to get an invite to apply. And I think we are going to see a change. If we're throwing garbage out, we're going to get, it's going to change the landscape. But that said, like, we just built an AI software in-house for helping with putting together like the bones of your proposal. And, the thing is, it's the way we've done it and how we're doing it with this partner I have in Canada is we're actually building very specific molds for the grants that we're going after and developing deep expertise in that program. So with successful,
that is the key, Meredith, that it is a helping tool, not a doing the whole job tool.
Right. I mean, it's going to get you 40, 50, maybe if you're lucky for other people, 60% of the way. Probably for these really heavy science projects, it's going to get you less far, because you have to make sure it's not guessing an answer. It needs to be actually factual. But the reality is, if you need help just even figuring out, like, how do I, like, here's the information I have on this team members, can you just help me format and rewrite this a little bit cleaner? And then you take it from there. That kind of bouncing back and forth, having a writing companion, a buddy, is going to be very helpful, and that's fair game. We're just saying, do not use it for 100% of your proposal. That'll be a real fast no. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, you want to hear more about the tool we've developed? Well, let's see, we're going to be doing an event in mid-April where I'll be sharing more about it, because right now it's all internal. We're not bringing it outside, but it is very, very cool. Okay, so how do you measure how much you can use it? English is my second language and it is very helpful. It's not a matter of like measuring it. It'd be more of just like, I mean, we just posted a job application or a job, and I had someone that clearly used AI to apply. Like, I could just tell it, like I could sniff it out. I was like, this kind of like looks good, but it's not, it's just not unique. Like, there's nothing here that like tells me you actually did this. Like, I could smell the AI in it. So I mean, the reality is, like, I'm using it more and more and more every day. Like, my belief is that grant writers that are not going to lose their job to AI, it's grant writers that don't use AI that will. Like, that's my opinion personally. So it's just a matter of like figuring out, like, how can you be a writing companion, my buddy? Because essentially it's replacing the human buddy that used to provide that. When I first started grant writing consulting and I was a one-woman shop, I hired my little sister, who's an excellent editor, to do that for me, right? She would be the one that would receive drafts and bounce them back and forth. And, her preferences in Amazon got a little expensive to say thank you. And I don't have to buy ChatGPT or any of the other AI tools gifts to thank them for helping me edit, right? So it's 100% like, I want you to start tinkering and using it. But the reality is, especially with the complexity of your proposals, you've got to be the one that's going through that with a fine tooth comb. Okay, so where are we at? I think we need a strong, and then lacking strong collaboration with universities. Do you have a specific example you can say about that at all, Faiza?
What was the question? I can't see it.
Oh, no, just the last bonus mistake, like lacking strong collaboration with universities.
Yeah, so in this case, NIH really likes collaborations, either between departments or between institutions and universities, because the idea is like one mind can think that much, a group of minds can think better. And also you have to look at it from their perspective. If, God forbid, tomorrow you have a car accident and you're out, there are other members of your team who can continue the project that you started. So they just love collaboration.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one way to think about that, because I think the word collaboration can kind of be like, I don't know, the word sustainable, or even AI now, right? It's just thrown around so loosely. It's like, what does it even mean, right? Think about it this way, and I like Faiza teed this up. How robust and resilient is your team such that people will leave? you're dealing with multi-year projects. They're going to go to different jobs. They're going to be taking different opportunities. New people are stepping in. So how resilient are you to that change, to a 20 to 30, 40% turnover and what your team looks like that you're proposing, to what it looks like when you get to the finish line? So just that's the way to think about it. Like, how resilient are we to something happening? And if you feel like you're not that resilient, you know that you've got some holes that you can go fill with some proper collaboration.
And also, how expert are you too? I mean, you are expert in your field, but you're not expert in the whole project. So getting people from different institutions also bring a different perspective.
Yeah, why do you think I brought Faiza today, y'all? Like, she writes NIH proposals and I don't. I wanted a subject matter expert, right? So all about that collaboration. Okay, so we've got a couple gifts for you because I know we're coming up on the top of the hour. So let's see, how are we giving this to them? Do we have, anyway, here's the grant template in Asana. So you can basically create a new project under your workspace, and then you import this spreadsheet. And so we'll give you some instructions on like a Loom video on how you do that. But basically then you upload our template that we've given you and use that as the bones for your proposal. That said, I also wanted to include a 3-part tutorial on federal grants, specifically how we use grants.gov and how we complete federal grant applications. You're welcome. This is huge. Usually this is something within the course. I went and downloaded it so that you could have access to it. But basically it'll give you the opportunity to review a copy of completed federal grant application, not an NIH one, but still you get the idea. And then when you cross compare those two, you're going to understand, okay, this is how that project management Asana template works and can help me. And then, actually getting the back-end training. And this is like another 90-minute training to top off where we are. And then the other thing I really want to recommend is go get a copy of my book if you haven't seen it yet, How to Write a Grant, Become a Grant Writing Unicorn. It really is it is an absurd amount of knowledge for 20 bucks or whatever the book is. Make sure you get the second edition. We've been having issues with Amazon showing the first edition, which is not nearly as good. So be sure you do that. And then we just got it on Audible. And that's where I actually added in stuff about AI and grant writing, just like ad lib, because we needed to talk about it. Things have changed. So I think, can we drop that link in, the Amazon link or whatever? I think Rose is on it. Okay, so the other thing, if you're looking into leveling up your skills, fine-tuning that project management, having coaches that you can ask when you get stuck, having Faizas appear, is of course becoming skilled at writing grants yourself through training. So we have a program called the Global Grant Writers Collective. It's a professional membership for those that are leveraging grant writing to basically propel their career to all new heights. So it's curriculum, earning your certificate, coaching, and community. So level of alliteration. How does it work? So when you come in, you have a customized onboarding process, and then that gives you your own curriculum track of material based on your goals. So you tell me what you want to do, and then we will give you the course content you need so you're not overwhelmed with content you don't need. And then you end up working on pursuing your certification, and you have to get that, develop a funding strategy, which we talked about earlier, which is knowing what grants to go after. We will look at that, give you coached feedback. You will pass or fail on that. And guess what? Once you pass, you have a really robust plan of the grants to pursue for the next 18 months. So what is it like? We have coaching calls every 2 weeks. We've got about 600 or so community members, 6 coaches, and a lot of bonus trainings. Like I just did a training on LinkedIn. What do we have coming up? We've done them. Yeah. What else have we done? I'm forgetting. We have book club that's regular. That's just good for your mindset because frankly, half the battle with grant writing is just getting your head on board. So yes, if you'd like to join us, let me know. You're welcome to DM me on LinkedIn. Tell me that you came to this and I can get you a unique discount code. So let me know, like probably Proteintech would be a good word so I can keep track of this conversation. But yeah, you can find us basically through info@sunworks.org, an email to Rose, or you're welcome to DM me. And yeah, we can see if you'd like to join the collective. We're also celebrating National Unicorn Day in a couple weeks. And so we would love to have you at that once that link is up. All right, super good. So where are we at now? I think we only have 9 minutes left, so we should probably do some Q&A that I might have missed along the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, Meredith, there was a question in the chat that I think might be nice to address just because a lot of our audience are international, international students. So the question was, do you need to be a U.S. citizen or a green card holder while applying for NIH grants?
Yes. Sorry, the answer is yes. But you can collaborate if you don't have the green card or the citizenship. You can collaborate with a professor who is here.
Great.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Meredith, I jumped on that one.
No, it's good. I'm like, I don't know the answer to that question. That's why we brought Faiza. So yeah, cool. And so that sounds like maybe that feels like a bummer at first, but it's really not going to slow you down. So
Yeah, I mean, as scientists, we all collaborate anyways. So if you're studying here, chances are that you have a collaborator who is from the US. So
yeah,
someone
cool.
else had also asked, I just have one more question.
Yeah, no, go for it.
They asked about how important the novelty factor of the work is.
Yeah, I didn't understand that question. Can whoever asked that ask a little bit more clarification, or do you know what they mean? Okay.
Yes, I know what they mean. Yes, innovation is the alpha and omega of applying for NIH. The purpose is to advance science, and that's why innovation is critical. They will not fund something that they funded before.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, totally. I know we're getting some questions about like how do we get that Asana template, that federal grant training, all the things. And since we have gathered quite a list of stuff to give you, what we realized it's going to be a lot cleaner just to send you a follow-up email, because then you can take your time looking at it instead of trying to get it out of a chat. So look for an email from Rose and info@senworks.org later on today, and we'll make sure that you get everything that we've talked about.
Awesome. So I just want to, before we end the webinar, I just want to really thank you, Meredith and Faiza, for all your expertise. This is absolutely amazing. Like, I really wish that I had this resource when I was trying to apply for grants. I feel like I would have gotten some more grants. But I really learned a lot, and I can tell from the chat that our audience really appreciated it. And I really just wanted to give a shout out to Rose too. Thank you so much for monitoring the chat and for providing all those resources for our customers, our audience. We really appreciate that from Proteintech to you guys. And then I just wanted to share a few last slides before I go ahead and end the webinar. But before I do that, Meredith, Faiza, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is just in the chat, if you can share like your number one takeaway, that's always a curious matter for me. So I know like what's sticking, right? It's not it's what's caught. So love to know if you can just share that while we get wrapped up. What was the number one takeaway from today?
So while you guys do that, I just want to share a few more slides in case you guys want some more career resources. So at Proteintech, we really like supporting early career researchers and kind of have the initiative of, how can we make research go forward? So we do have an early career researcher hub where we post past webinars that we have done, any career development resources, for example, how to write industry resumes or interviewing tips and tricks. We also have travel grants and mentorship awards that we offer as well. So definitely, scan the QR code to check out our ECR hub. We also have a blog page where we focus a lot on career development blogs. So for example, we just recently published one on how to create a LinkedIn profile for scientists. And we have many other ones on our blog page as well. So you can scan that QR code and feel free to check out those blogs as well. So with that, I just want to thank everyone once again for attending. Again, a big thank you to Meredith and Faiza for the amazing tips and tricks, and hopefully, our audience will get some of their grants funded from all the advice that you guys gave. And then if you liked today's webinar and you want to learn more about our future events, please do follow us on our social media because we post about all our future events on there. We tend to do about 2 webinars a month. Some of them are careers focused, some are more technical. So if you're an antibody user, we do have, technical webinars about immunoassays and things like that. And then if you do have any other questions after the webinar ends, please feel free to email our events team at events@ptglab.com. And then you can directly reach out to learn grant writing at info@senworks.org. So with that, I'll go ahead and end the webinar. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.